All right, guys, we're going to jump into the second part of this interview regarding sports doctrine. Let's jump in, guys.
Power than us.
I think you're in a unique position, maybe beyond anyone else out there, because, and this might sound a little weird, but you've done so many debates that are hugely popular on the Whatever podcast with Brian over there, and you debated endless feminists. What have you noticed that are really telling patterns, again, because you've had this unique experience that probably no one else has of debating more feminists than probably anybody else out there? What have you noticed? What's the pattern?
No, that goes to Myron Gaines. We have to be honest here, guys. This goes to Myron Gaines.
That's really crucial patterns that we need to understand.
Their worldview is based on a complete ahistoric understanding of the oppressor-oppressed view of the world. It's a Marxist view of the world, which is designed through a specific lens, and that lens is oppressor-oppressed. Because of this, everything that they believe is not historical at all. They only look at things through a paradigm of who's been oppressing who. And so for them, men have been the oppressors of women instead of the defenders of them. That there's never been a unison between the two sexes, only an oppression from one sex to the other that women had to fight their way out of with, I guess, annoying language, right? Because they certainly didn't use physical force. When in fact, the truth is that great rights were granted to women by men because we do live and we need each other, right? We need each other in these kind of great ways, and this is biblically grounded. But this idea, this kind of ahistoric idea that men have been traditionally the oppressors of women instead of the people who have fought all the wars, who have created all the infrastructure, who have done all these things, which have even allowed women to have the kind of nicest, most comfortable lives that they've ever had in the existence of all of humanity. And how are men treated for that? They're vilified. They're vilified across the board as though we're nothing more than these sort of, consumable wallets and cannon fodder. And this is what feminism has led women to. The idea that men are nothing more than just another Gucci purse. For it to be, that's last year's type of man, we'll get rid of him, just like last year's type of Gucci purse. Now we need to get a new one. And society has become completely sick at its core because of this. The intersexual dynamics. This is, by the way, Jay, Gen Z is the most sexually confused, most sexually, degenerate. And the confusion, the sexual confusion for intersexual dynamics is like nothing I've ever seen. They can't even agree on bizarre things like consent. They can't even agree on that. They don't understand interpersonal relationships at all. And it's kind of through these cracks that you see the intersexual dynamics.
Feminist, like, bro, like, how in the hell, man, we allowed this to happen? It's the craziest thing ever. When you go back and really see what was going on back then, how in God's green earth we managed to allow this to happen? It's insane. It's insane. I don't even know how we allowed this to happen.
Beginning to break down, but feminism has been at the forefront of doing that, of muddying the waters, where everything becomes sexual harassment, even though it isn't. Everything becomes sexual assault, even when it isn't. You know what I mean? And it's through this muddying of the waters that you see the intersexual dynamics begin to really break down.
How do you think the system has become so successful at being down men and brainwashing so many young women, especially Gen Z? What were the main techniques that you think that they were so successful at to achieve this dominance that they have?
The way they achieve everything, propaganda, baby. Propaganda is king, which is why we need Christians at the top producing.
And this is we should be doing the same thing. Propaganda. How is it that leftists can do propaganda on us, and we have to play the moral high ground, right? Propaganda is bad. I don't, and this is, I noticed these things are very, as long as you do that in your own home, I'm okay. You know what I'm saying? These kind of phrases that it's just basically meeting you in the middle. It's not that I'm not okay with you do certain things. It's that you should do it in your own home, or you should not push the other. All of these non-confrontational phrases. That's basically just pushing people's propaganda right through their throat, and people are afraid to push back. You can see this in the train stations in New York City, all degeneracy. All the real estate companies, they use degenerate ads playing with a lot of people's mind. It's crazy, man. And you, as a religious person, you cannot use it. You're banned of using it, or you're shamed for using propaganda, but we're gonna use it. We take Christianity out, or religious belief out of the school, but we're gonna put our religious belief, which is the LGBT, all that stuff, or the wokeism. That tells me that the United States or the Western world came through a very weak approach through faith in the late 20th century. Very weak. And we got caught.
Our own propaganda, but let me give you an example of very successful propaganda. How about this for an idea? When you talk about the staggering rate differentials between sexual assault between men and women, until you look into it and you realize it's all lies. It's all lies. When you categorize, for instance, sexual assault as only being penetrative, well, women can't penetrate men, right? So anytime there's a sexual assault by them, it's not even categorized as being sexual assault. They'll add things that are bizarre, like catcalling. As a form of sexual assault, it stacks the rates sky high. But because of this, you can imagine when these people rattle off these stats, right? They'll rattle off these stats on every major news network which has ever existed. You know, men are hundreds of times more likely to essay a woman. Women can't feel safe anywhere. Yep. Men are these monsters. And it's just not true. Like, none of it's true. Very benign things, which are interpersonal between men and women, which happen in commonplace, can now be categorized as sexual assault, and men can be villainized and made out to be monsters. And it's through forms of propaganda like that you've now, that led to what? Me Too? Me Too leads to like CEOs going, no, I'm just not even going to have any women left in the office. It's too dangerous to even have women around because they can levy these false accusations and we can be put in prison for life. And it's like, or have a reputation completely destroyed, or have all of our finances completely
believe all women,
crippled.
right? Believe
all women. So all of that. But
why would you have to say believe all women? Because all women's are liars. Why you have to go to that extreme? It's because you don't believe their own women. Like, as men, I have to believe all women out of the gate. And this is what happened: is real victims get affected by stuff like this.
That was just propaganda, but it was all backed by phony stats, phony statistics. It was all backed by, just nothing but phony nonsense. And the more you look into it, the more you realize almost everything which is stated about the intersexual predatory nature of men is wildly overstated. And in fact, men do the opposite. They have always traditionally protected women. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. And it's too bad because this intersexual dynamic has led to a massive birth rate crisis, the likes of which we've never seen, that we're not going to easily recover from. And maybe not recover from it at all. Japan's basically history. South Korea, basically history. Those are what we're going to consider in 100 years failed civilizations. And, the recovery.
Imagine that. Japan and South Korea, and it's true when you start looking at it, because there's gonna be a point that there's the youngest person is gonna be 35. If the rates keep going like that, the youngest person is gonna be 35 or 40. How do you recover from that? How do you recover from that? That we need to really take this serious, man.
Free from this. Until some of that propaganda starts to change and it starts moving into, no, trust men. Men aren't there to be predators. Men aren't there to, essay you and do horrible things to you. And it's through a Christian lens that we can find a lot of these truths, which can then lead you towards looking at these stats yourselves and feminism itself. And also buying my wife's book, Cold Feminism, which is a fantastic shilling on my behalf right now. Buy it right now. I need to go buy a new gun, and I take all of her gun money because I am a patriarchist. So
yeah, that's what we need is legitimate, authentic, patriarchal restoration, I guess we could say, in society. But I think when they captured the academic world and when they captured the corporate world, that made it really difficult to maintain masculine control and power, because now in a corporate setting, you have the same situation, like you said, where the HR department is run by a woman, and HR can decide, you're sexually harassing somebody with this email, it had an innuendo, and it may just be completely innocuous. But women have figured out, much like socialists and Marxists and others on the left, they figured out that a lot of these techniques and tactics are actually ways to gain power in society.
Yes.
Yep.
In other words, the currency of oppression can become a tool, not just to cancel people, but to get your own social value and power exalted. Have you noticed that with a lot of these supposed leftists? They actually seem to be fairly psychotic, especially the ones that you've debated, this Naima girl and people like that.
They're totally power hungry from the bottom up, right? And they want to be in charge, and that's that. And they want Christians to see that within their worldview they're not allowed to be. And the ones who don't are labeled Christian nationalists and Nazis and everything else, and are run completely out of town because they dared say, no, Christians can also be in charge. So yes, they are extremely power hungry. A good example of showing like how some of this can work in real time. I was watching on a news broadcast the other day. They were talking about how women are just killing it because they own more homes than men, right? They're just killing it. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I looked into it. Well, it turns out it was like 30% of the homes, they got in divorces. Does that sound like they're killing it? Right? No, it doesn't sound like they're killing it at all. It sounds like a bunch
she's
of
basically the epitome of feminism, man. These people like this, epitome of feminism.
propaganda, which is being reframed to make it appear as though women are being far more successful in the workplace than men are because of home ownership, when nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, the idea is that these families are being broken up, and just because you get a house through a divorce settlement doesn't mean that you're killing it in the workplace, right? But this is the type of propaganda which leads to girl boss, girl power, things like this. Democrats love that. They eat it up. They want that female vote in the worst way because, again, it's about power.
What do you think about where Trump's at? Is it time to depart from Trump, given what Candace was talking about earlier today with Epstein? Should we still support Trump? What's your take on all that?
We have to support him.
You should be very cautious about pulling support for Donald.
Yeah, you have to support him. You have to be careful with people. You say, I'm not supporting that. Now you have to be careful with people like that. Because I mean, what it means is the room got very hot. The room got very hot, and I want to get out of the room. And we saw a lot of people with even Kevin Samuel fresh and fit early on. The rooms, even with Andrew Tate, a lot of the room got very hot, and people just left. And a lot of these people, you don't even see them anymore. It's a bad character.
Donald Trump, and let me explain exactly why. This happens every single year that Trump was in office. There was some made-up scandal with a bunch of Republicans or right-wingers running to the forefront saying, now's the time. We've got to ditch Trump. This is an insurmountable scandal that we can never move past, right? And every single time they were wrong. Every single time. And they would show, by the way, same playbook. He's slipping in the polls. America's turning against him. Everybody hates this guy now. And he was reelected, won the popular vote, won the Electoral College, right? Reelected after they painted him as an insurrectionist. There was no way for him to possibly live down being an insurrectionist. We have no proof at all that he was in the Epstein files. None. There's no evidence showing that. There was a massive blunder I think his administration made. You alluded to it earlier when they were trying to go for complete transparency. They moved in Dan Bongino, and then they have Patel. And these guys promised that they were going to release this stuff. They didn't. Do I think America deserves answers? Absolutely. But here's the thing, right? You as the first mate, you as the crew member, if the captain, the whole thing is, if the ship's going down, you're not supposed to bail on the ship. You know what I mean? You get through it. And right now, we don't know what all ends are going to be. We don't know what's going to happen with these releases. I'm not willing to turn on Trump just yet. And I'm sorry, but that's not the case. I remember they were saying on the Israeli thing, that was it. That's the end of Trump.
Yeah, same thing. Remember the Palestine, the Israel thing? He's done. It's like these people are so... You know what I noticed about Twitter? Twitter is just... It's very good. But too many people live in Twitter, man. When ICE was raiding a lot of people in Los Angeles, people were saying, man, this is the first battle of the Civil War, the second Civil War, the battles of Los Angeles. Like, bro, relax. Just relax, man. Just relax. He's under control. Like, people need to chill. People need to just let politics plays out. Like, and just give the Trump administration the criticism they deserve. But just jump ship. You jumping ship, it means that you're not willing to take the hit. You're not willing to take the heat.
That he went Israel first, and that was a blip. It was a blip. It lasted for a couple of days. It was over. You know what I mean? And it didn't really hurt him politically, ultimately at all. It was not a good time to move away from Trump. So any of the right wingers moving forward saying we have to bail on Trump, not there yet. Sorry.
Yeah, I think we need more.
And who are you gonna bail on him for anyway? You know, I hear these people like, oh, we will go for Kamala. Are you serious? Kamala Harris or a Democrat? You think, like, who are you going to replace this guy with anyway? He's what we got, and that's that.
Yeah. You have to take one battle at a time, right? Trump is the guy right now. Now you have to get somebody a little bit more right-wing than him. Like, you have to do this step by step.
Do you think that the left and the Democrats, are they dying? Is this party dying? Or are we going to see new
Both parties are
forms
dying.
and
Both parties are dying. Yeah, neither party will survive populism.
Yeah.
And we know that because of Trump's reelection. Populism, obviously, is very popular.
Yep.
Right? For a reason. It's entailed in what it is. It's appealing to the most amount of people so all the left can offer you is more of the same. The left can offer you more degeneracy, more degeneracy, more degeneracy. That's all that they ever offer. They never offer anything else, right? It's always the give us more of the same shit everybody hates, right? So people have already started to move away from that, especially Gen Z, who are now moving towards being perhaps the most conservative generation which has ever lived. Doesn't surprise me any, or at least has lived in maybe since World War II. What's really interesting here is the thing to point out is like the GOP is doing the same thing though. They're offering only more of the same of what Democrats were offering 10 years ago, and it's basically the same thing. More degeneracy, the populist position, Trump coming out and saying English is going to be the language of America via executive order. That was a winner. We're going to deport immigrants, legal immigrants. That was a winner. We're going to end birthright citizenship. That was a winner. All of these various policies that he had, saying there's only two genders, massive winner. One over guys like Pierce Morgan, one over many of the middle of the road kind of progressives, right? They really like it. It appeals to far more people than just let's sprinkle some degeneracy on it. It's like every time there's a wound, both parties now just sprinkle some degeneracy on it, right? And that'll cure the wound. Well, I think populism has killed both parties. The political landscape is going to be radically different. You'll probably see more guys like Fuentes moving into office than you will see guys like J.D. Vance in the next 30 years. Or you'll see guys, on the opposite side, the leftist side, way more socialist, maybe like Haas, for instance, guys like that who will be running rather than what you have seen with the normal uniparty.
Yeah, I think we're going to definitely see radicalization, and I don't mean that in the sort of terrorist Homeland Security speak. I just mean in the sense of people being more polarized into definitive positions, moving away from party politics and into right versus wrong versus right versus left, actual issues, standing on an actual platform rather than caving to whatever the talking points of the party are. What do you think about
which are released to the press in the morning, right? They just released to him, to the White House press corps. Here's the talking points of the day's guy. Okay, President Trump decided today to, and they're literally reading a script, and that's not even, that's not even hidden information anymore.
Yeah, that's just boomer stuff. That's just the boomer stuff. We're not doing that anymore. We're not doing that anymore. We're not playing the politics. We want results. We want to make sure understand politics, guy. One thing I don't understand a lot of people. If you like the president of the United States, you like his agenda, do not vote for a party that doesn't even follow your agenda. Don't be this naive. Understand how the United States work. If you like Trump, you have to vote Republican in the House and the Senate, or whoever you want for president. Otherwise, your agenda is not going to move. Don't be a boomer, man. Don't be too hard on the boomer. Boomers used to just vote based on it's a mix of both. Don't do that. If you believe in the president, you have to go through the House and the Senate. You have to vote, man. Like that. It has to be like that, guys. Right? And Arizona was a very good example. They voted for Trump. Large margin. But then for the Senate, they voted for this guy, the other guy, instead of Kate. Or Kerry Lake. Instead of Kerry Lake, they voted for the other guy, Gallego, or I think what's his name. Why would you do that? Don't you understand politics? How is it you're voting for Trump is going to make it better if you're electing a Democrat for the Senate?
You know, they just hand them a press release, and the media reports on it as though it's news.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
Another element here that we might be wanting to pay attention to is the possibility of a radicalization in a real sense via cults, via weird religious movements. And you have done quite a few debates with some of these kind of fringe ideas, Black Hebrew Israelites, or you've done some debates with some Mormons over the years. What do you see with this, with this realm of the fringe and cults? Are cults going to make become a growing threat, we might say, in the country? Because when we get these periods of destabilization or national insecurity, people start to turn to odd things. Exactly. So are cults now a threat?
Yes. But here's the truth, and you know this from all of the study that you've done, they always have been. And many of these political arms are actually cults. Long-standing cults and entrenched cult traditions, going from Freemasons all the way over to Shriners and various things like this, which are and have the roots in occultism. Feminism has its roots in occultism, as you can read occult feminism, find that out yourself. So you know that the enemy, the great enemy, Satan, operates this way. What he does is he uses mostly truth, and then that's what pushes the lie. That's what makes the lie so deceptive.
It's almost true, but that little percentage of the lie, that's enough. That's enough to just contaminate the entire truth.
Is its massive truth. Why do you think so many cults run with Jesus Christ is the truth? Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ. That's what they'll always say. Because that is the truth, right? But that's how you can also make things very perverse if you add enough truth to it when you sprinkle the lies in. So do I think occultism is going to be on the rise in one of the most spiritually bankrupt times in all of human history?
100%.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're going to see people, and they're already doing it. They're running towards traditional churches as fast as they can. Orthodoxy is finally getting a foothold in the United States. But Catholicism, right? Roman Catholicism is also exploding. Any place where people can find any sort of traditional spiritual guidance, they're going to run towards it. If you think that cults aren't going to capitalize on that and aren't already, then you are completely mistaken, because they are, and you will see massive increases in that, witchcraft, everything else, and you already are.
Yeah, I think the dangerous thing with like these Black Hebrew Israelites, as I see them growing quite a bit as well, is that they're really appealing to Black people and sort of giving them an alternative narrative. And I think those are ripe to be kind of turned into violent things via feds and via just in a sort of demonic ideology. So I think we have to be leery of these fringe, malleable religious movements that can be utilized by the establishment or by
the
bad
reason this is occurring, by the way, Jay, is because of the idea of masculinity. The churches have become completely feminized. Yes. The Protestant church especially, totally feminized. And so guys like Black Hebrew Israelites will come in to Black communities who've had fathers completely ripped out of the home. It's one of the number one reasons the crime rates and everything else are so high. Completely fatherless. It's overwhelming. The abortions are out of control, this type of thing. What's so interesting here, though, is that these guys bring in a message of masculinity, right? And they can do things which will tailor to already existing paradigms in those communities. So promiscuity runs rampant in the Black community. Let's add polygyny, right? We'll add Christ with a little bit of polygyny thrown in there, right? That's pretty masculine. You could go knock up 50 chicks and God says it's okay, guys, right? That's a pretty good package, isn't it? That's a pretty good little birthday present to get thrown in.
Well, Islam too. Islam is also sort of marketed and packaged at times, especially for Black guys in prison. They'll try to convert them, get them into Islam.
Yeah, you can have multiple wives, this and that. But the idea here is masculinity, right? We know how to control our women, right? The thing is, though, is that you can have mechanisms for control socially of men and women through ecclesiastical authority. And we always did, and it worked well. We just moved away from ecclesiastical authority. Once that's reintroduced, the idea of losing community for women becomes terrifying, and they don't want to mess it up any more than men do. Those are the mechanisms and means of social control for men and women that are generally good for men and women. What these guys want to do is go in and be like to the cage with you, and it's totally unnecessary. But any form of masculinity in a spiritually bankrupt place, because masculinity
Mm-hmm.
is the thing that needs to be assaulted, attacked first by the enemy, broken down
Right.
by the enemy, and femininity ushered in. Anytime you see people who portray masculinity, you're going to see them have a huge following and a lot of people gravitating towards that, even if the ideas are actually poisonous. And I almost can't really blame society for doing that or young men for doing that. They're just like, well, look, I'm not going to be punished because I want to punch Nick in the face, right? Or I want to punch, Jack in the mouth. I'm not going to be punished for that, right? Great. I like that. That's way better than whatever this stuff is, right? So I think
Good point. Good point. And that's so basically, you're a Christian. You have to tighten up, and that's go to myself as well. I need to tighten up. Well, need to tighten up. We have to tighten up because it's interesting. I never realized the importance of this, but even in Puerto Rico, we used to be very Christian as a state, and we moved out of it. And man, wokeism just came out like a rampant fireball, man. And now you see a lot of these wokeism, LGBT, whatever. Even the famous artist, the Bad Bunny guy, he's just a bisexual. I mean, it's so weird, bro. It's like Satan, bro. It's like Satan just. And then feminism is rampant in that era. A fourth wave feminism is already there. It's crazy. Let me know what you guys think, guys. I'll see you next one.